Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here for another Monday This and That vlog where I talk about all kinds of different topics, keeping you updated on various things, answering questions that may have come in the past week, and whatever I feel like talking about. So let's get to the topics of today, starting with these linen covers. So a lot of you know, especially if you're watching me for a little while or saw my last couple of live shows that I did, I've really been getting into linen, and I decided that I wanted to kind of scrap some of my old covers for my dehydrator racks because I wasn't really, some of them I'm not positive anymore if they're actually 100% cotton or cotton and polyester, and they're kind of old and stained, so I decided it was time to start fresh with linen. Now, one of the reasons I'm switching to linen and the undyed 100% linen is that not only is it a good natural fabric, it is one of the most breathable fabrics you're going to find. And because it is linen, I decided to hem all the edges. So I cut them to fit my Kasori racks. What this will do, because it's very breathable, it actually, and I found this with cotton sheets, is it actually helps things to dehydrate faster. And so the more breathable it is, the faster the things are going to dehydrate. But also, especially with the Kasori racks, because the mesh on it is pretty wide, you're going to get a lot of stuff that can fall through there, especially as it dries. Even if it fits on there when it's fresh, once it dehydrates, it can start falling through. And especially when you're talking about things, herbs, especially things like thyme and any other herbs that have tiny little leaves on them that can fall through. This just makes it so much easier, keeps it cleaner, keeps everything contained. And I love this. And then especially if you're using plastic trays like with a Nesco, having some kind of cloth on there is going to help at least prevent so much plastic exposure to your food. So to me, the cloth is just a great thing. I've been doing it for years. It's just that the linen now is going to be a new thing. And even though I haven't tried dehydrating on this yet, I feel very good about it. I'm very confident just with my experience in working with cotton. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you is my coffee plant. So some of you who've been watching me for a little while might remember that back in the spring, my friend gave me a little coffee plant that she had started. At the time, it was only that big. And it was in this pot, so it was this little tiny thing. And I wanted to show you how it's coming along. Coffee plants do grow pretty slowly, especially early on, especially when they're young. And so I'm really happy to see how well this is coming along. I do keep it in a south-facing window, so it gets plenty of light, but also in the living room where it is going to stay the warmest, especially through the winter, because we'll have fires going all winter long, or, fall, winter, early spring. And so that will keep it nice and warm. So temperature is important for coffee plants. But anyway, I'm pretty excited. It'll probably be quite a while before I even get berries, let alone get enough to make a pot of coffee. But yes, so she has a really beautiful coffee plant. And when I first met them and we started hanging out at their house, I think her coffee plant was only this big. Now, from the floor to here, it's almost as tall as me, at least. And I'm 5 foot tall. And she's gotten some berries off there and has started some more plants. And this was one of those that she had started from one of the berries that she got from her original plant there. So it's pretty cool. I'm really excited to have this. And it was just a really great gift, especially for how long it takes for these to germinate and start growing. And there was some time put into that. And then another thing I wanted to bring up that I usually try to bring this up at least a couple times a year, is that any of your wood products, such as this, all this stuff are things that Patrick has made for me. So I have my kitchen board here. A lot of people assume this is my cutting board. I didn't have him make this to be a cutting board. I had him make this to be something, I wanted a big piece where I can use for rolling out my pie crust, my bread doughs, and anything else, so that I can have a nice protected area, because this laminate countertop I noticed is getting faded spots. And not only is this going to protect the countertop from so much wear, it's also going to prevent that from getting in my food, because you're thinking, if that's wearing out, that means it's getting in the food. And I didn't like that idea. So He made this from several different types of wood, and I love it. You can see, I'll put a picture of it here when he first made it, and you can see the color is so much deeper now than what it was when he first made it. And part of the reason why is because I routinely treat all of my wood products, the mortar and pestle he made me out of spalted maple. This actually is my cutting board. And I can't remember what this was made out of, but he made it for me years ago, and it was much lighter in color as well when he first made it for me. And then I've showed these before, but these ones are actually mine. He does make and sell these, but my vegetable tamper, so I got the long handled narrow one, which works good for any jar, be it a half gallon or a regular mouth. And then this, he actually made me for being a fruit masher. I also use it to mash up the eggshells once they're dried to put back into my chicken scratch to give to my chickens. I do routinely treat these and any other wooden handled items that I have, my knives, my bread whisk, which needs to be treated again. And so how I do that is I only use food grade stuff. And typically what I'm going to use is coconut oil. Coconut oil is also, because it's also antibacterial, especially for things like your cutting boards, is going to help kill off any possible bacteria that might be in there, as well as just give it a good treatment. That's going to help prevent cracks in your wood, because your wood's going to get dried out the more you use it and wash it, and then it can start to crack. So that's something I do try to keep up on. So whenever I grab something and I can just tell by the feel of it that it's too dry, the color isn't deep enough, the grain isn't showing up as nicely as it should, then I know it's time to put another treatment on there. So you can do it every time you wash it, or wipe these things down, or every other time, or just a couple times a year, as long as you give it a good treatment and let that oil really soak into the wood. If you melt the oil and pour it on there, especially if you're keeping your boards and your wooden items in a warm place, like a lot of times I'll set them in by the wood stove, and that will actually help open up the pores so that the oil will soak in deeper into the wood and thus protect it even better. For items that I've done that with a few times, I don't usually go that far. It's just usually now, it's most of the stuff, because it's got so much oil deep into the wood, it's more just keeping it maintained by just putting a good coating on it every so often. So I just like to remind people of that, because that's how you're going to make your wood products last longer, especially when we're talking about kitchen things that get wiped down or washed on a regular basis. I did bring this up in my Sunday live show, but I wanted to say it again because not everybody likes live shows. In fact, somebody went as far as to make sure I knew that they loathed them. And that's fine. You don't have to like. This is why I have so many different types of videos. I have shorts. I have videos like this where it's a this and that, where I talk. It's a potpourri of topics. And then I have single topics of all these recorded videos. So at any rate, the live show is a new thing. I'm going to talk about that more in a bit. It's a new-ish, or renewed. I'll put it that way. But anyway, the ramen that I brought up in my Azure Standard order video, that was one of those things, again, where I misread. And no, it's not because it said it was USDA certified organic that I assumed they were made in the US, but I did not read correctly part of the label where it had actually said distributed in the United States. And it gives the address of the company, I think is in California. And that is a common mistake. I thought I had read on there that it was actually made in the United States, and I know better to look for that, but sometimes I still overlook something. I still make mistakes. I still read things wrong. Sometimes we see what we want to see, and we think, oh, good, we're looking for made in the USA, and we see, oh, USA, yay, or we see that little flag, and you just got to watch out for those things, because sometimes it can be really deceiving. And so even like, and I don't want to talk bad about them, because the 4-jar lids are great lids. I'll admit they're great lids. They are founded, and the company is owned by a small US-based business. I appreciate that. But the lids are actually made in China. They'll say 4 jars USA. It might have a little flag, but if you look closely on the box, you'll see that they are actually made in China. Now, from what I understand, that they're having it made there because, it costs a lot of money to build your own factory and start putting out your own lids. And so it can take time to build up the money to be able to do that. And I believe the hope and the plan was for them to eventually have their own factory here in the US. But for now, they're made in China, and they're still good lids. It doesn't make them bad lids. But my point in that is that it is really easy to, just see an American flag. Oh, yay, it's made in the US. Well, you just got to read a little bit closer. And I try to do that, but sometimes I still overlook it. So I wanted to also apologize about that. Yet again, I'm not trying to be deceitful. It was just my own error on that, not I was reading the package. I wasn't actually reading the description on the webpage where it clearly says that on Azure Standard. It clearly says, if you scroll down, the country of origin is China. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about those live shows. So I've done 2 so far since I've come back to this. And for those of you who are new to my channel, you might not realize that back in 2016, I was doing fairly regular live shows. Actually, I was doing them on a regular basis for at least a couple of months, I think it was. And then I did a few more, and it just got to be too troublesome because our internet is so terrible, and we're so limited on internet out here and what's available to us that actually works good at all. And our neighborhood is like the worst neighborhood in town for speed, even for CenturyLink. Like, my son lives on the other side of the town. He gets far faster speeds than I do on this side. It's just the way it is. And my youngest son lives on the same side of town as us, same problem. So he had to switch internet. And he ended up going with Starlink. And even though I had my reservations about it for a long time, it's like, man, it would sure make things a lot easier for upload, because I would have days where it could take 12 hours to upload a 15-minute video. But anyway, that's why I stopped doing the live shows, because it was so difficult with the speeds and the constant buffering and cutting out. And so a couple of weeks back, it was just spontaneous. I just wanted to try it, do a test run to see how well it was going to work, especially sitting outside, and it worked great. And so then the Sunday before, I went ahead and did it. It was kind of scheduled. I did put out a post. I just wasn't positive until it got close to 12 o'clock if I was really going to do it, because there was a bunch of other stuff going on that day. And otherwise, I would have given people a better heads up. So now that I know that it is going to work well, I am going to get back into doing regular live shows. But the best time for me, and I know it doesn't matter what time any of us pick for our live shows, it's always going to be inconvenient for someone. So if you live on the other side of the world, or you're working that day, you're in the middle of church, there's always going to be someone in inconveniences. But so I just have to go at what the best time is for me. And Sundays are one of the only days I don't have grandbabies around to interrupt. And the middle of the day is going to be best after I have my video shooting out of the way, and before I want to get serious into the editing the videos and getting my other chores done. So Sunday noon Pacific Standard Time. Now, it won't be every Sunday. I'm looking at, for now, maybe every other Sunday. And who knows, it might end up being a weekly thing. But just understand, it's just a bonus. It's not going to replace my regular 5-day-a-week videos. So, pre-recorded videos like this one. And then if you're new to my channel, just so you understand, the Tuesday through Friday videos were all recorded anywhere from 2 to 6, even a couple months before they actually publish, depending on if they're Pat's videos, my videos, and so on, where I like to have the Monday this and that videos where I can keep you more updated because they're only shot a few days ahead of time. Then a couple other things. Tincture. I get all the time people who want me to basically prescribe to them amounts of tinctures that they should take. But the problem with this is not only am I not a doctor, not only do I not have a license in any kind of healthcare, I'm not going to know each person's individual needs, and it's all going to vary per person. And it's going to depend on the type of material that you're tincturing, and it's going to depend on the type of solvent you're using to make that tincture. So if you're using vinegar or an oxymel, which is a half and half blend of vinegar and honey, you're going to need more than if you're using something really strong like 100 proof or higher alcohol to make that tincture. If you're using a high proof alcohol, you're going to need much less, like maybe just a few drops, maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon. It's all going to vary per person. So I can't tell you what exactly is right for you. And so what you need to do is, if you're going to make that, start by making just a small amount, because you want to make sure that herb or whatever is going to work good for you in the first place, and you're not going to have a bad reaction to it. No matter what solvent you use, I still recommend starting with a small amount. If you're using a solvent that isn't a high proof alcohol, like maybe you're using wine, like I tend to use a lot of my homemade wines for making my tinctures, I'm going to use more of that right off the bat, just because I know it's not going to be as strong as one that I made with a higher proof alcohol. So I might start off with a tablespoon, or maybe even a whole shot glass, which is just a little shy of 1/4 cup. But even then, I might start with just like a teaspoon, even if it's made out of homemade wine, to see how well that's going to work for me first before I increase the dosage. So you've got to figure that out. There's a certain amount of personal responsibility. Even doctors, when they give you prescriptions that they think are right for you, they can be too high, too little. They're not going to know until you start taking it and find out how it makes you feel. Because no matter what happens, you're still being a guinea pig, no matter how knowledgeable that person is. At least you're playing it a little bit safer when you're going with natural things like herbs and stuff, as long as you don't have any allergies or bad reactions to that. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up is about sometimes when I mention going to the National Institutes of Health to get information, people make this, they just immediately get all bent out of shape and think, oh, you can't trust the government for information. And they assume that's where I put all my trust. But then on the other hand, if I share information from a naturopathic type site or something like that, got people on the other hand freaking out, well, you can't trust that. There's no science behind it. And so I'm trying to get people to understand that no matter which way you look, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's good information that can be gleaned from all types of sites. And one thing I've learned through my own research and making mistakes by trusting only one or the other is that you have to use all of them to make sure you're getting all the right facts. So if I can go to the NIH and find the scientific proof that backs up this naturopathic information over here that I found on an herbal site, that can't be a bad thing. That's actually a really good thing. And that helps show people who are hesitant about using herbs for anything that there is actually scientific proof to back it up. So I'm not saying everything that the NIH puts out is 100% true, but neither are things put out by other sites that are natural, because people get things wrong all the time, just like I have in the past. And one example I have liked to use is when I was first studying about calendula, I remember looking it up to see if the leaves were edible. And the first thing I came across is that no, they're toxic. Well, I didn't look further than that. So you can't just trust one site for your information. You got to keep looking. And what I found out years later is that calendula leaves are indeed edible. And some people like to saute them, throw them in salads. And I have tried one. They kind of got a little spicy flavor to them. You might like them. But my point is, you can't just trust one site. I don't care if it's a government site, a medical site, a natural site. You got to compare them all. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and get all bent out of shape because I'm trying to show all of the evidence from all sides. I think it's highly important that we try to use all of the above. And you'll know when you look at it, no, okay, the NIH has this wrong for certain, or this natural site has this wrong. You'll know the more you start researching it and comparing the information. So, and that's what I do whenever I compile information for a video on a specific herb, the benefits of turkey tail mushroom, or the benefits of juniper berries, or the benefits of citrus peels. I compile the information from all these sites, and then I give that to you, and you can take that information and do with it as you will. And I always highly recommend people keep doing their own research, because there still can be stuff I missed. There still could be something I read wrong and relayed the information wrong, because I'm just as human as anyone else. And so you can't fully trust me or anyone else. And it's not because I would intentionally try to be deceitful. It's just because I simply make mistakes too. So I wanted to make sure I get that out to you again, just to understand all that. So anyway, I'm going to close out this video. I hope you enjoyed my this and that for the week. And if you got any thoughts or ideas, please put those in comments down below. Remember, all of your comments, likes, even your dislikes, your shares, all of that stuff does help get my channel back out there again like it should have been 9 months ago, like it used to be, so that more people can see these videos, even those who've been subscribed for years that assume I've been gone because my stuff has been hidden from them. So anyway, thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.